Welcome back, everyone, to my Life with Breath Expert series. Today, we're branching out a little bit to bring in one of the all-time greats, Dr. Lori Shemek, who's going to share a lot of information about how we can reduce inflammation and improve circulation and live a more dynamic physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual life. So I'm glad you're with us. Welcome back, dear friends. I'm so excited to have Dr. Lori Shemek in our audience for the next little bit of time of our lives. And we're going to extract a boatload of information and wisdom, knowledge from her experiences and what she's doing today to change the world. But before we begin, let's just see if we can hit the brakes in our life for a few minutes and just really tap into the power of our breath. So if it's possible for you, if you could just sit up tall. Plant your feet firmly down into Mother Earth and feel winter underneath your feet. That's right. The nerve endings of your feet can sense what season that we're in. And as you press your feet down into the earth and you harness this magnetic energy, notice your spinal column becomes straight. Straight spine, open mind. If it's okay, close your eyes for a few moments. And bring your attention to the flow of air coming in and out through your nostrils. Relax your eyes back into the sockets. There's nothing to strain to see here. Release and relax your low jaw, letting go of any tension around chewing or speech or swallowing, simply relaxing the entire lower jaw line and your tongue. Drop your shoulders away from your ears so there's a lot of space between the ears and the shoulders, amplifying the length of the trachea. Shift your mental attention to the ingoing breath and slow it down and follow your thoracic diaphragm down into your abdomen, this beautiful belly of ours. And on the exhale, as the air leaves the nostrils, you squeeze your abdominal muscles gently. The diaphragm leaves the abdomen and it massages the lower lobes of our lungs, which trigger a relaxation response. And just take a couple moments, follow the incoming breath down into your beautiful belly. Doesn't matter what it looks like, it matters what it feels like. It's a master feeler. And on the exhale, just exhale longer than your inhale and know that you're burning fat. As the inhale evolves, feel the beautiful rib cage expand and your heart and lungs have room to animate your brain. And pay attention to that exhale. That gets a little tricky. And you want to try to deflate those lungs fully. Complete the moment fully before we take in another moment. So if you're being still and you're focused on a slower inhale and exhale, your face is relaxed, your spine is straight, don't tell anybody, but you could be meditating. And what does it feel like just to be in a neutral space where you're free to be you? It doesn't matter what others think. It matters what you think about yourself. And if you wanted to go deeper into meditation quickly, simply hold the breath in for a 2 count and hold the breath out for a 2 count. And you'll notice there's a bigger gap in the cognitive and emotional process. And in that gap, many amazing things can come to our mind's ear, because we can't learn anything new when we're talking. Just a couple more rounds. Soften wherever you feel you can. Listen to the cues of our life from our heart. And allow yourself to be relaxed and focused, yet powerful in controlling the moment, so that the moment doesn't control us based on who we were 10 years ago. And on that next exhale, let's take it through the mouth, purse lips, really slow. There'll be a little sigh there, a little sound. Break that sound barrier. And when you're ready, open your eyes and welcome Dr. Lori.
Thank you, Ed. It is so great to be here with you. Breath of life. I love that you do that.
Oh, yeah. Well, everyone, Lori is someone I really respect. I've done a podcast with Dr. Lori in the past, and she is really dialed in to what's important to longevity, what's important to staying lighthearted, what's important in regard to getting out of our own way on so many different little platforms. I was reading Dr. Lori's bio, and my gosh, when we talk about nutrition, we talk about weight loss, we talk about being an author, we talk about being on TV, we talk about being the inflammation terminator. And for those of you who know my work, it is really all about inflammation reduction and improving the quality of circulation in our blood as the foundation to tune everything into one channel. Dr. Lori, how'd you ever get started? And just this, now there's a lot of people doing it, but when you were first doing this, it had to be, you were the woo-woo person.
Right. It was before it was a buzzword, inflammation.
Right.
Now everyone knows about it. And, but I grew up with a mother who was ill most of the time, and I was the eldest of, I have two younger brothers, and so she had one health condition after another, and really I learned a lot from that, and she was my motivator to really learn to live a healthier life. And sadly, we watched our mother die very, very early in life. She was only 36, and we were still young, still living at home. And so after she died, they had to scramble to find a place for us to live, and it was just a mess. And so from that experience, I decided I wanted to help other people, and I knew that health and nutrition and psychology and all of that wrapped in one would be the ticket. And I really, it was my mother who was the catalyst for all of that. And because I knew she was like many people who didn't feel like they had choice in life. And so I made it my mission to help other people understand they are powerful, really. And if I had the knowledge that I have today, she might still be with us today. Who knows?
Well, your mom must be so proud of you.
Thank you.
Seriously. Can you even say that these days?
Yeah.
I look at my dad. My dad, he died of lung cancer, and I've been a breath expert for 25 years. It's just funny how we find our path kind of serendipitously.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It is. And yeah, I know he would be proud of you too, what you've done. I mean, you literally save lives every day, and you empower people to live really a healthy life. As when they combine that with other factors, breath work is truly phenomenal, powerful.
You're a super authentic person. In other words, you don't put out anything that you don't, number one, yourself know to be true, that doesn't have scientific data behind it. And, I think that's really important today.
I think it's so important, Ed. I really do, because, you can't, there's so many instances of people being harmed or not having the right data, not having the right information that they get from Dr. Google or something, and they've hurt themselves. So I think it's really important to put out information that's credible and people can actually use in their life, today.
When I first asked you to be on the show, I could see the similarities between what we were doing and how
Right.
it's all connected, like how we're breathing, how many breaths we're taking per minute, our heart rate, how we think, how we perceive, and how it's all tied into inflammation reduction.
Right.
And when I first came to you, you were like, well, wait, I'm not really a breath expert, but this is what I'm talking about, authenticity. Like you were in your lane, but you were still super open to come on and do this. So
Mhm.
uh
Yeah, because I had you on my show, so I
yeah.
know that you actually do reverse inflammation in the body via what you do, right? So I
Yeah.
felt like, oh yeah, of course he wants me on the show. It's a good fit. It really is. So
So
yeah.
inflammation. If I was going in to speak to a group of first graders, how would I what would I want to bring to their awareness about how excessive inflammation plays such a huge role in depleting my physical energy and making it more difficult for me to grow and learn?
Yeah, that's really important. So let me just distinguish between there's two types of inflammation, right?
Mhm.
There is acute inflammation, which is when we cut ourselves or scrape our knee or sprain our ankle, right? It hurts, it's uncomfortable. So let's take the cut on the finger, for example. When you cut your finger, an enormous amount of inflammatory molecules are released, and soldiers, if you will, rush to the site to repair the wound. They repair the wound heals, the soldiers go away, the inflammation goes away, and all is well. Without this acute inflammation, we would not be alive. We would not heal. It's an immune response, and it's very, very important. Okay. The next type is the type you're speaking of, and that is silent or chronic inflammation. And this is like having a sore on the inside of your body that never heals.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
is the Silent inflammation is the core underlying cause of most illness, disease, faster aging, and yes, weight gain. And diseases like heart disease and cancer, any disease you can think of, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, diabetes, obesity, is all under the realm of inflammation. And the good news is that we can reverse it. That's the
Mhm.
great news. And
Mhm.
it doesn't take a lot to do that. We have the science of epigenetics that shows
Mhm.
that just a couple changes here and there consistently done changes your gene expression. It slows down cellular inflammation, and that's really, really important. So you think about people who drop dead of a heart attack, right, and when they're very young. Well, they've been experiencing this low level silent inflammation for years, and that's the problem. When we're young, our cells can repair the damage done to whatever insult we provide it, the body, right? Either
Mhm.
internally or externally. But as we get older, the cells can't keep up with the amount of injury. And this is where we get the inflammation, the trouble.
Why do you think that it's becoming so normal to see obesity? And why do you think it's becoming so normal for folks maybe to be less positive about themselves and their life than they were, say, 10 years ago?
Those are two great questions. And so let's go with the first one. The rise of obesity is completely correlated with the rise in sugar intake and the rise of what they refer to as seed oils, which
Mhm.
I like to call inflammatory oils,
Mhm.
right? Because it's really a misnomer. Some of them aren't seeds. All right, we're talking seed oils, meaning canola oil, very inflammatory, soy, corn, and I'm trying to, my mind goes blank. But anyway, there are oils. These
Mhm.
oils cause cellular harm. And what happens is our cellular membrane is extremely important to our health. We
Yes.
need to keep it optimized. And if we don't, if we ingest these seed oils, which is not your fault if you're struggling, because it's in everything, just like sugar is in everything. And sugar damages our mitochondria, so do these seed oils. So by stiffening the cellular membrane, it is very hard for nutrients to enter the cell and to give it the proper amount of nutrients that you need for optimal health, for weight loss. What you're doing is causing oxidative stress, and this is terrible for your body. It's inflammation, really, and so when you, if you were to take away two things from this show today, it would be to eliminate these oils. So that the other one I was thinking of was vegetable oil. So canola oil, soy, vegetable, and corn oil. And so when you get rid of those four, at least stop cooking with them, because they're a direct source of inflammation, if you will. You're good to go. You use oils like olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, butter, ghee, things like that. You are enhancing, optimizing the cellular membrane so that it can benefit you powerfully. So those are the two things. Sugar, like I said, directly damages mitochondria and your gut health. And so you want to eliminate those types of, quote, foods, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem is they're hidden in most foods that people are choosing to eat, okay? And it's not just the junk food either. It's the foods that people think are healthy. So in order to eliminate them, you have to look at the ingredient list and be really mindful about that. But once you know what food has what you don't want, from then on, you don't have to choose it. It won't take very long. So with the change in people's attitudes, their self-perception and beliefs about themselves, I think that part of it is their diet, okay? I think that also with the amount of weight people are gaining, with the ingestion of, say, these oils and the sugar, we used to ingest 1.5 to 2 pounds of sugar annually back in 1900, right? Now it's 156 pounds a year.
Wait, what's that now?
Yeah, it's 156 pounds of sugar a year per person, and that's average too.
That's half a pound a day.
I know. And again, it's in, like those oils, in most every single food people are eating, right? And they have no idea. It's in things like chicken broth, for goodness sake. And so we want to make sure that we read labels, read the ingredient list, because that's the only way you're going to know. So an example is people think that they're being really healthy when they go to the grocery store and they get whole wheat bread, orange juice, and yogurt, right? So unfortunately, the bread has as much sugar as 2 tablespoons of sugar would. In fact, it will raise your blood sugar as much as 2 tablespoons of sugar. The yogurt has more sugar than a candy bar. And the orange juice is liquid sugar. It's pure fructose, which is one of the most inflammatory things you can put into your body. So I hate to be, I'm the bearer of bad news. I know it, but these are important points for people to know, that there's a lot of biochemical reactions, one called glycation, that happen when you ingest that much sugar, all right? And gut health is another matter, but in this case, in terms of our mood, gut health is key, because we now know that gut health and our mood are directly connected, all right? There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it anymore. We know that there's a direct link between our gut health and depression, for example. And they have found that they did these studies in prison, and they found that when they stopped giving the prisoners these seed oils I was talking about earlier and sugar, 50% of them became less violent. 50% became less violent. They added in, for another trial, they added in multivitamin, and 100% of them felt better, and violence went down, and suicide ideation went down as well. So you can see the power of food and the role it plays in how we feel about ourselves and others, really.
Food is our medicine.
It really is, yeah. And if we want to repair everything, we need to choose differently.
when you speak of epigenetics and the cellular membrane, and how the cellular membrane reads the environment externally and then turns on the cell inside to
Right.
react. That's Bruce Lipton's work.
Yeah.
And your beliefs create your biology. It's very, very powerful work.
It really is. And he talks about, the chemicals, the neurochemicals, that is kind of like a lock and a key on our cells, right? And if we're consistently putting out negative emotion, well, we're going to consistently put out negative neurochemicals, if you will, right? And that's exactly what is going to be expressed. And so the opposite is true too. And why positive thinking, gratitude, things of that nature literally promote health, because you're putting out positive neurochemicals that then, if consistent, create a better, healthier body.
Yeah, it's so interesting how everything's tied together.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
When we look at ourselves in kind of the Western model, it's always top down. The brain runs everything, and the body just carries the head around. If we look at some of the Eastern arts, it's more or less a bottom up type of process where the belly and the heart are sending signals to the brain on how to perceive what's happening. And so much of my work has proven that we really are sensitive beings. We really are great feelers. Our emotional content frames our cognition.
Yes.
And the great part about the belly is it doesn't lie. It doesn't have an ego. It sends signals up to the brain, and the brain either agrees or disagrees with it. But at the end of the day, the body's in charge.
Yeah. And we can't forget the vagal nerve, right? The vagus nerve.
Right.
And that's in part in what you do. It helps promote that as well. Yeah.
When folks start to get healthy, one of the things I notice, just like in the epigenetics and the cellular membrane, which is the outside of the shell, I begin to notice folks, their skin gets completely different. It's moist, it's vibrant, it's breathing. And the skin being the largest organ, it's one of the major benefactors of removing these oils and sugars from putting them in our body.
Oh my goodness, that's a really great point, because so something I talked about, the biochemical reaction of sugar, and I mentioned glycation, and that's exactly what sugar does. And so when you ingest sugar, it's the proteins and the sugar within the body, they react, okay, and it's a biochemical reaction, much like when you see those browning potatoes, those crispy brown potatoes on the stove, or the fried chicken, for example, right? Or caramel. Those are examples of glycation. Mm-hmm. And that same process is happening within our bodies. And it just doesn't affect our skin, causing wrinkles and sagging skin. It is affecting the tissue on the inside of our body as well. Mm-hmm. So it's called AGEs, is another name for it, advanced glycation end products, or the Maillard effect, or the Browning effect. There's different names for it, but in the end, it is glycation. And that's something that we can literally prevent and stop from happening by removing these types of foods. I always use quotes because they're really great foods.
It's great. You mentioned this vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. It's a branch of the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, and we have this autonomic nervous system that just runs the show subconsciously behind our conscious awareness. But one of the autonomic functions that we can control, if we want to control, kind of has a dual switch, is breathing. In other words, if I want to control my breathing, if I want to slow down my inhale, I can bring parasympathetic qualities to an inhale which we know is sympathetic in its natural organic offering to the internal. In other words, your heart rate will go up slightly when you inhale. There's a slight arousal there. It focuses the brain. It helps straighten the spine, and we move into the environment, and hopefully we can adapt to the environment without creating any negative karma or, whatever wouldn't be healthy. And then we have this exhale, which is organically parasympathetic. And the longer that exhale goes down, and the thoracic diaphragm muscle, which we want to have strong, but we want to have flexible, so it has a tremendous range of motion, we can activate the lower lobes of these lungs, which are imbued with parasympathetic nerve endings. And the longer that we can exhale, we know that the lungs play a huge role in transferring fat back out into the external environment. And in that longer exhale and the thoracic cage lifting up, we know the vagus nerve gets charged up. Can you speak a little bit about these little tentacles of the vagus nerve that go into each digestive organ of the abdomen?
Yes, and I'll also preface, a lot of people don't realize that when they lose weight, it's through breath as well, right? So that's just something that a lot of people don't know. But if you listen to my podcast called This Podcast Burns Fat is the name of the title. Ed, we have Ed on there. And so he talks all about that. So it's really interesting. So the vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body and it's extremely important to optimal health, right? And there are things that you can do to really, because it has far reach with every area, every organ in the body. And it goes head to almost toe, and it's things like humming, cold water, right?
Yeah, cold water, yeah.
You're good at jumping in that cold water, Ed.
I learned from Wendy.
What?
I learned from Wendy.
Really?
Oh, she's the Utah State champion. She goes in for like a half hour in forest bathing.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing. I can't even believe it. But yeah, I mean, so cold plunges, cold showers, singing, laughing is a really, really good way. And breath work, is another good way. So the more you practice this and also one other way is if you have a vibration platform, it also strengthens your vagal tone. But yeah, that's one thing, meditation and deep breathing will bring you is that naturally. So if you like to hum, go ahead. It's good for your whole body, actually. Or laugh, Yeah.
Yeah. These are extremely simple.
Yeah, right.
Extremely powerful. And when I look at the work that you do, I look at the work that I do, and there's tremendous resources out there around epigenetics and the vagus nerve. It's amazing to me that what we're showing folks is that you have so much power. You are so free. You are choosing your life. And we still seem to stub our toes.
Yeah, and it's the only life we have. And I think we're here to learn, to stub our toe and go, well, that didn't work. And so try again, right? And so I think we're just on a journey to become better, I think, and hopefully. And but yeah, it's tough, and that's why when it comes to nutrition, it's not just really. There is a one size fit all generally, but there's but you have to really try different things in nutrition to see what works for you. There is no, in my opinion, no dogmatic type of nutrition that works 100%, 100% of the time. So, just be open-minded about it and try different things. Don't be afraid of carbohydrates. Don't be afraid of the ketogenic diet. Don't be afraid of anything. Try and see what works for you.
One thing I notice about human beings, even though we're going through a very challenging time and there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of different opinions out there about what health looks like, is that it seems like every person, every generation tries to leave it better for the next generation. In other words, every human being
Yeah.
tries to improve what they're doing. Whatever you're doing, you're trying to do it more efficiently than you did on Tuesday. And it's just part of this innate inner faith that what you do is valuable, and you want to take whatever you're working with and how you started with it, and you want to bring your signature onto it, and you want to improve its efficiency.
I would hope that everybody feels that way, because I do think that most humans do. I really believe that everybody, you think about our lineage, our parents and their parents and their parents,
Right.
how it got, for most people, it got better and better and better down the line. And but yeah, same thing. I think that if that probably goes back to finding purpose in life. That in some way, in some small way, you can help another, be better.
Yeah, whatever rings your lofty goals or rings those bells for you, is
Yeah.
fine. But when you think about kind of how long are you going to be able to ring that bell?
Right.
The idea is to live as long as possible, and just be a good farmer. I mean, leave good seeds in your field for the next generation. Don't be greedy, don't be aggressive, be kind to others, all these things, that we're all in this together. We're all on the same tribe. And it's becoming so challenging because there is a lot of information out there, and what you see on TV might not be the best thing for you. Everything is like hypnotic, and, go get this candy bar, or go try this wine, or, whatever it may be. This is why the breath is so important, because it keeps you now. It keeps you present. And you really can't change anything in your life if you're not present. You've got to be in that moment, and you've got to have the ability to take that one breath and push back against that one food habit or thought habit or emotional habit that you've already figured out isn't serving you.
That is well said, Ed. Yeah, that is so true. And that's, they talk about meditation, extending lifespan, and promoting a healthier life, creating optimal health, and breath work as well, all because you're reversing inflammation in the body. And that's a key factor, as we know. And so, we can do it with our diet. We can do it with exercise. A lot of people don't realize that exercise is anti-inflammatory. So when you flex your bicep, that you're releasing anti-inflammatory molecules actually. And so with every movement in your body, because the body was designed to move, not sit like we're doing. And we've all heard that sitting is the new smoking, and that's true, because I posted regarding movement. It's called the nitric oxide dump on Twitter the other day, and it literally is so simple. It is, it's just like this, and circles and squats, 4 times, and that's it. But what you're doing is you're releasing nitric oxide, right? And this is going to, instead of building up in the body, you're releasing it, and you're optimizing health, reversing inflammation. So so exercise is anti-inflammatory. The thoughts we think, as we just went over, is anti-inflammatory. But the foundation is diet. And I think that, and everybody, I think, understands that. A lot of people think that inflammation is just that achy knee, but it isn't. Mm-hmm. We know that 75% of our population is walking around with this silent inflammation, and they don't even know it. So that's why, in my opinion, it's crucial that people start living an anti-inflammatory life. And that is going to be a game changer. It truly is. I mean, you look at people, say in the blue zone areas, the longest lived area. Right. I don't know, there's some speculation about some of those ages, but nonetheless, a lot of them live to be extremely old, centenarians. And they found that even at 100 years old, these centenarians had incredible molecules circulating, and they had incredible endogenous antioxidants still available. Their mitochondria were strong, and they had a number of them, and healthy, robust mitochondria. So I think, it's one of the most important things for people to understand about cellular health is mitochondrial health. And one way is to reverse the inflammation in the body. And, we can do that with our diet. Combine that with intermittent fasting. And those two factors are fantastic in promoting autophagy, which is intermittent fasting will do after a while, of cellular house cleaning, actually. So the cell gets busy cleaning up all the collected debris, and the dead, there's cells that hang around called senescent cells that they're dead. They call them zombie cells, actually. And because they just hang around, they're not dead yet, but they're dying, and they cause all these inflammatory distress signals, which other cells react to, and this is a big southward dip for your health. And so the less we have of those, the more mitochondria we have, and the healthier they are, the less inflammation we have, the leaner we are, the happier we are as well.
It's beautiful. So well said. That's a weekend seminar right there.
That's right.
So when we think about breathing, when we breathe through our mouth, the air just comes into the upper lobes of our lungs. It triggers a sympathetic action of adrenaline and cortisol. Digestion stops, heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, and the head gets all windy. And that's great if you're being chased by a lion or you got to get away from a bus. But for in normal human life, this is not an emergency that comes up. Most of our emergencies are just thoughts.
Yes, exactly.
When you breathe through your nose, the brain in the sinus area is naturally going to secrete nitric oxide. So right there on the inhale, you're already bringing anti-inflammatory molecules into the alveoli sacs of your lungs, so you have more potential energy, because it takes energy for us to be us. Let alone trying to change behavior, letting alone trying to change the subconscious brain, which is so powerful over our conscious brain. If you've ever tried to change a habit in your life, you know that you have to consciously push up against that subconscious brain again and again and again. So it takes energy to rewire the subconscious brain for the new habit to become conscious. And as that diaphragm muscle moves further down, in other words, the phrenic nerve, which is the motor nerve of the diaphragm, becomes more electrical, and you get that downward thrust down into these gastrointestinal organs. They get this amazing massage. And who doesn't like massage? And then on the exhale, you've got this suction coming up, and then this vagus nerve kicks in on the exhale when it's longer than the inhale, because the brain senses that you're safe. There's no danger of attack. And you begin to trigger early stages of fasting. In other words, you're cleaning the internal walls of the organs of mucus, phlegm, fat, toxins, anything that's impeding that organ's function. And I think a lot of folks don't realize that focused short-term fasting or cutting back on those sugars and oils, the greatest benefactor of that is your mind. Because when you start to fast in here, this starts to move faster, cleaner, and you know the answer to every question before it's even asked. So the real benefactor of this improving this gut health and reducing inflammation is our brain.
Isn't that amazing? And also soy oil, they just found via research, shows that it literally harms our brain. So, boot that out of the house. or whatever fast food you're eating, because they use a lot of soy food. Yeah.
So how can we start to change habits in our life, knowing that we have this subconscious brain, which has a memory of everything we've done since our birth? we have this cellular inflammation around the areas of our body which are difficult to move as we age. What are some of the first steps that you would recommend for folks that want to really get going and live a dynamic rest of their life?
Okay, so again, the diet is foundational, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is a must, and because you can't, nothing is going to change. You know the old saying is you can't outrun a bad diet. Well, that's why. And so, but you want to start with foods that are really nutrient rich, high in antioxidants and polyphenols, things like leafy greens and anything that is brightly colored, such as those multicolored red peppers, yellow and orange peppers. You want, for example, cruciferous vegetables, cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, arugula. These are called cruciferous vegetables, and they literally stop NF-kappa B, which is the main inflammatory cascade, if you will, that it creates so much havoc and causes so much distress in terms of illness and disease, such as cancer. And so that's why cruciferous vegetables are very protective against cancer and other diseases, because it stops that inflammasome, right? And I recommend having that at least 5 times a week, if not every day, if you can. You know, there are different ones. Broccoli is the best one, I would say, but they're all really good for you. And then you want berries because they're a low sugar fruit. You don't want to eat a lot of high sugar fruit. Fructose is another discussion, but suffice it to say, it is hard on the liver, okay, because the liver then stores it as fat if you're eating a lot of it, and it's inflammatory and causes high triglycerides, and the list goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So we want olive oil, olives, spices like turmeric and rosemary are excellent. We see spices being used a lot in Indian culture, and they're delicious. So just anything that is beautiful to look at, colorful, are really excellent to use in your diet. And don't forget meat as well. Don't be afraid of meat. The meat that is raised properly and not abused, or you want it raised grass-fed, grass-finished beef, for example, and you want all of them to be pasture-raised and treated well, no hormones, no antibiotics. Those are the types of meats that give all meats a bad reputation. Mm-hmm. And so don't be afraid of healthy meat. It's very good for you. It's high in a specific type of omega-3 fat. Mm-hmm. And I would say don't eat an excess of carbohydrates, because what happens is over time you're creating insulin resistance when you do this. So the remedy for insulin resistance, which means you're eating so much sugar, everything gets broken down, metabolized to glucose, right? And you either are pre-diabetic or you get diabetes, or you don't even know it. Most people have no idea about either one of those. And your body doesn't respond, your cells don't respond, they ignore insulin, right? So insulin continues to circulate throughout the body, glucose continues to circulate throughout the body, and this is inflammation. And so high insulin, if you have insulin resistance, you have, again, oxidative stress going on, and it's very bad to have this cellular stress on the body.
Thank you very much. I learned that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Now, if I understand this correctly, we eat this food, it goes down into our stomach, and there's digestive enzymes in the stomach that cook the food again and prepare it to be eliminated and go through its journey through the body. If I understand a little bit, I don't know if I have the right terminology, but there's a different heat context or temperature for different types of food. And I know that we're all dealing with excessive levels of stress, negative stress, which is causing our blood temperature to be up, our blood to be acidic, all of these things. A lot of the food that you just mentioned have, to me, a cooling content to them that is going to cool the gut, even though they're being digested with high acid digestive enzymes that are stored in the stomach. It's if I understand, if I'm getting this, it sounds like there's a lot of cooling that's going to take place in my belly, not only around digestion and getting the energy assimilated into my gut, but also how I feel about things.
Yeah, when you ingest, in comparison, when you ingest Pringles and Oreo cookies and fast food, and even some of the healthy foods that I meant, quote unquote healthy foods that I mentioned earlier, the body, you're affecting gut bacteria, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very powerful component of optimal health. And so you're naturally going to either kill off the good bacteria with these foods, or you're going to populate the gut even further with unhealthy gut bugs, because these unhealthy gut bugs love these types of foods. I know it sounds like a science fiction movie, but it's true.
It's true.
And so when you eat sugar, you're literally feeding these unhealthy gut bugs. But when you eat foods that are anti-inflammatory, they don't like those foods. The healthy ones do. So of course it makes sense, right? And so yes, there is a rise in temperature. Metabolism causes that. When you ingest foods, certain types of foods increase the temperature even more. And so I would say that probably sugar and anything inflammatory. You think about inflammation as being heat, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where it probably comes from.
So, we're going through this COVID time, and hopefully we're coming out of it as the new strain is a lot weaker than the one that we first were introduced to 18 months ago. It seems that if this disease lives in inflammation, lives in fat, what you're doing not only will make sure that your immune function is strong, as we know that 80% of the immunity comes from our gut health.
Right.
But you're also, number one, you're not going to get sick, or you won't be as sick as long. But number two, you're going to live longer and be lighter.
Absolutely.
Is that
Yes.
an assumption that I can make?
Pardon?
I can make an assumption that if I follow what's in your books, what's on your website, working with you, chances are I'm not going to get sick.
Right, exactly. And one of my the largest frustrations throughout this pandemic has been that you hear a lot about make sure you use your disinfectant and you wear your mask and you socially isolate and all of this, and you get your vaccine. But not once have I heard a health expert talk about the importance of nutrition. The importance of ensuring that your vitamin D levels are adequate, that your zinc levels are adequate, not once. And so I that it just makes me shake my head going, what is going on? Because there is nothing that, as we mentioned early on, food heals. Food is very protective. Just like I mentioned about, the broccoli and the, Brussels sprouts, etc. Protection. Okay, and so you mentioned about the COVID virus living in fat. That they just found out that that's one of the reasons why it hangs out in fat. One of the reasons why obese people have so much vulnerability to the effects of COVID.
Yeah, every time I talk to you, I learn something.
So we have a question from Gert, who's asking, how does oregano oil, how does it do it? How about? Yeah, absolutely.
How about oregano oil?
It's fantastic.
Inflammation. And oregano oil is awesome.
Very good. Yeah, it's really wonderful in reversing inflammation in the body. Yeah.
Yeah, Wendy and I try to do that twice a year. In the fall and the spring, we'll introduce oregano oil in the morning to our diet. And it just helps that little transition going from summer to winter and winter to summer. And
Mhm.
we've got great benefit from it.
Don't do too much though. I'm warning
No,
you.
it's just, oh boy, that stuff is kick ass, that oregano oil.
I know. I've done that.
So
Oh,
your work is extremely important.
thank you.
When we think about everything that the belly's involved with. Like I remember when I first started to get into yoga like 25, 30 years ago. And it wasn't like, triangle and warrior one. And, it was really kind of the deeper aspects of yoga. And it was all about the belly. It was
It really
all
is.
about activating that gut. And
Or
that's really
releasing
hard.
it.
Excuse
Or
me?
releasing
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, people can simply notice, like when your eyes and jaw become tight, these two sense organs, your gut becomes tight. Like everything is connected. But I think the ancients were really dialed in to the gut because they wanted to feel everything as a potential teacher, but feel it with a lower heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just think about, you can't think about the belly without thinking about immunity, without thinking about the lymphatic system, without thinking about our level of energy, without thinking about our sustainability, without thinking about moving away from cancer and stroke and diabetes. It's just everything. But it's kind of like the stepchild that nobody talks about.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and somebody just was showing a question or a statement about ginger being a yummy anti-inflammatory, and that is very true, very powerful. Yes, ginger and lemon every day. Good job. Yeah, you're right on, Ed. It's you have to. We really have to be conscious, especially in this era, because there's toxins all around us, and there's toxins in what we eat, and so when we eat an anti-inflammatory diet, we live an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, then we're protected even that much further. And when you take steps to clean up your gut, people don't realize that glyphosate's being sprayed on all the grains out there. And glyphosate was originally patented as an antibiotic. And so people are eating it I don't know, they're just every day, 3 times a day eating grains. And that's part of why a lot of people have gut health issues now, leaky gut.
When we talk about clean up the gut,
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to see your gut. Okay. It's encased inside your abdominal muscles, but you can feel inside your gut. Like to me, a healthy gut doesn't mean six-pack abs. Okay.
Right.
It means a belly that can respond to the environment and adapt in that environment without becoming negatively stressed. The belly is just this master feeler. And, I work with a lot of athletes and, they're really into that, six-pack abs, the transverse abdomen, everything is so tight. And it's so tight that the diaphragm muscle can't get down into the abdomen in the inhale, and they're just breathing up into their chest. So,
That's
what does cleaning up the gut look like? What does it feel like?
Well, once you do it, it feels fantastic, right? Because
Yeah.
again, the gut is the epicenter, as I call it, to overall optimal health. And our immune system 80% resides within our gut. Our weight is directly connected with the type of bacteria and amount of them, healthy gut bugs. Our brain health is directly connected to our gut health. They're thinking now that Alzheimer's and our gut health are directly linked. And so you can see, the importance of gut health. We have 500 million brain cells in the lining of our gut. And so when you clean it up, that means that, it's kind of like creating a healthy gut garden. So you want to pull the weeds first,
Yes.
right? And so that means that you're getting rid of your pulling out all the junk food and the sugar and the bad inflammatory oils that we talked about, and the processed foods and the chips and all that. Once in a while is okay. That's not a problem. But it's the everyday use of these things. And then, so you've got all the weeds pulled out. Then the next step is you want to plant your healthy gut garden, right? So that means you want to add probiotics to the gut garden, which is, probiotics are healthy gut bugs, and you can get them via foods, fermented cultured foods, or by supplement form, or both. The cultured fermented foods are things like yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, pickles, olives, kefir. These are examples of cultured fermented foods that when you ingest them, plant healthy gut bugs within the gut. And then the last step would be fertilizing your gut garden. Mm-hmm. And so with that means that you want to add what is called prebiotic fiber. And these are vegetable fibers. And so that's why all vegetables are prebiotic, but there are some that are, and fruits too, that are prebiotic, such as beans, bananas. We want dandelion greens, but remember, all vegetables are, but these are very, very good in terms of prebiotic fiber. Chicory, dark chocolate is another one. Onions, garlic, leeks, those are examples of prebiotic fiber. But again, you're going to get prebiotic fiber with any vegetable, okay? And so that's like miracle grow for your gut. You're literally creating and growing an abundance of healthy gut bugs. And that means you're happier because, remember, mood-brain connection, right? Happier, you're leaner, you think clearer, you have more focus, cognitive health, and your immune system is robust. And so that is really the way to do it. But, there are some foods that cause people sensitivity, such as dairy. So if you feel like, or some vegetables even can cause some sensitivity for some people, then, just eliminate those, see how you do without them for a week. And then if you're fine, then don't bring them back in. But if you still, you just have to keep searching, right? Remember, I said you have to keep trying and trying different things to really figure out what works best for you.
Well, I try to learn one new thing every day. In the last hour, I learned 10 new things. So I'm good for the next 9 days.
Yay.
So I could talk to you for the rest of my life. My audience is just so turned on by what you're saying because they see the connection. It's all inner work. If you want to improve the outer work in your life, you start by taking care of the inner work. And I love pull the weeds first. Anything that's sucking your energy in a parasitic way. It makes no sense to plant new flowers in your garden if you don't get down on your hands and knees and pull those weeds out first, because that's drawing all of your water and all of your sunlight.
Well said.
Now, how can folks get more of you?
Well, thank you. They can find me. I'm at my website, drloryshemek.com, or they can find me on Instagram at Dr. Lori Shemek, Facebook, Dr. Lori Shemek, Twitter at Lori Shemek. And every day I post healthy information, practical, usable information that you can, it's things that people can use or information that they may have not yet heard about. Health-wise.
What's great about what you put out is, you're a master of nutrition, and it's simple how you put it out. It's you communicate the message clearly, but you're also huge in the psychological world. You understand the human mind.
Yes, my background is in psychology as well. I have a doctorate in psychology, and so it has given me, it gives me a lot of perspective in combining health, nutrition, our mindset, how we think, because it really is, as you mentioned earlier, our perspective in life.
It really, if you're going to have free will, it's all about perspective.
Right.
How you perceive what is occurring.
Thank you.
How do I interact with that without creating any karma for myself? In other words, if I eat this food and it goes into my body, if you don't know whether it's, notice how you feel an hour later.
Right. That's
And
good.
make a mental note of that. Do I feel energized? Do I feel drained? Am I upbeat? Am I downbeat? Keep a little note. Like if you're trying on new foods, keep a little journal how you feel after it's in your body.
And it's interesting to note too that those who have been consistently healthy for a long time, making healthy choices, when they do eat something really unhealthy, they are very sensitive to it, and it's a very striking feeling to have. It's kind of like when you stop eating sugar for a long time, for a while, and then you eat something with sugar in it. It's super sweet, and it's just not pleasant.
And you could, because your mouth changes, the
You're
salivary glands in your mouth are alerted. This is not good for me.
right, and your taste buds literally change every 3 days. So they get used
Amazing.
to the new you, essentially.
So breath is medicine. Your
Yes.
food is your medicine. Put these two together, and I guarantee you will see dynamic changes in not only your energy level, in how you sleep at night, but how you perceive and think and feel as you move through your day.
Yes. Very
Is there
good.
anything else you'd like to put out there before we get a little Christmas hug and we just move on?
Yay. I would just like to say for everybody trying to change their health, really just know that you do have choice, and that just one small choice, if consistent, is really going to make a huge difference. Then when you're successful with that one choice, move on to the next choice. And you won't believe the power in being consistent. And even if you get off track, get back on. It's amazing. It truly is. So just stay at it. And a happier immune system, Richard. You're right.
Yeah. This immune system thing, get out there, get moving, get breathing, restrict your diet, but you're actually enhancing your life.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much for sharing your heart with us today.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Wendy. You both are wonderful.
Thank you, everyone. Have a Merry Christmas. We love
Merry
you. And as always, go be great.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.